Good morning. And looking at Unit 6.1, the American Revolution, while this is a world history course, your study of the American Revolution will really center in American History 1 as well as civics. That's when you'll get a good understanding of the events that take place during the American Revolution. For the world history, we just want to be able to see how it was the Enlightenment that basically helps move the American Revolution into existence. You have to remember that the Glorious Revolution of 1688 that we had talking about had given England this constitutional monarchy, and this pretty much reduced the various powers that the English king had. And despite this view, and these changes in the philosophies, there's still a growing number of England's colonists who are in North America during this time who are still wanting change. They are accusing the English government of tyrannical rule, and so they're going to attempt to overthrow what was then the mightiest power on earth, and they want to create their own nation. So throughout the 1600s to 1700s, the British colonists had formed a large and thriving settlement along the eastern shore of North America. We can see that the population had soared from about 250,000 to approximately 2 million in about 70 years. And economically, the colonies were thriving on trade with the nations of Europe. There was this increase in population, increase in prosperity, and this allows this new sense of identity to be growing in the colonist mind. They begin to see themselves as less British and more as Virginians or Pennsylvanians. And they're still British subjects, and they're still expected to obey British law. However, they're beginning to want their own identity, their own individualism. Well, what begins to happen in 1651, Great Britain will pass a trade law called the Navigation Act, and this will prevent colonists from basically selling their most valuable products to anyone other than Great Britain. So instead of you having the right to sell it to whoever you want to sell it to, Britain says you have to sell it to us first, and then what we'll do is we'll sell it to other countries. This, in a way, while it benefits England because Great Britain is definitely buying American raw materials for low prices, but it's hurting the colonists because they're not getting as much money as they possibly would have if they could have sold to the French or to the Spanish. In 1754, we have a war that erupts on the North American continent. It's between the English and the French. Do not get confused that the French and Indian War was a war between the English and the French. It was not between the French and the Indians. The French were also in North America. They had colonized parts of North America. And so we have the French going up against the English. This will basically last until 1763. Great Britain and her colonists will emerge victorious, and they will seize basically all of the French land in North America. However, this will continue to lead to growing tensions between Great Britain and the colonists. And you have to understand that Great Britain spent a lot of money and ran up a huge debt to be able to help pay for the cost of the war. And so Great Britain needs money. And they say, look, we helped those colonists stop the French, and we were successful. Therefore, it should be pretty common sense that these colonists pay some extra money because of us supporting them with the war. So they passed this thing called a Stamp Act, and a variety of other acts that will start to come in, and the colonial individuals say, look, you're violating our natural rights. You are giving us taxation without representation. And see, in England, what could happen at this time is that citizens had representatives in Parliament. The colonists didn't have any representation in Parliament. Thus, they argued they could not be taxed. That eventually is going to lead to hostility, which is going to lead to several unfortunate events. We will have what's known as The Boston Massacre, in which British soldiers fire onto a crowd that was taunting these soldiers and mocking and hurling insults. We have the Boston Tea Party, whereas to protest and import tax on tea, a group of colonists dump a large load of British tea into the Boston harbor. Then the British Navy will close the ports of Boston, which means that nobody can trade. So all of a sudden, you have representatives from every colony except from Georgia who will gather together in Philadelphia. They will meet at what's known as the First Continental Congress. They will protest the treatment that the king in England has given to the colonists. Basically, the king pays little attention to what is going on in the colonies, and that's going to lead to the Second Continental Congress that is going to come. It is important to know that Americans didn't just go fight, that they did try to work things out peacefully. They offered olive branches. They tried to work through things. They tried to offer compromises, but none of these things will basically work. And ultimately, it is going to be war that is going to be the only call or the only thing that is going to end the hostilities. There is some influence on the Enlightenment that allows the justification, if you will, for independence. You know, the colonists are asking for the same political rights as the people in Britain. And they say that the king refuses to listen to them, and therefore they're justified in rebelling against a tyrant because he has broken this thing called the social contract. And you know, the colonists are saying, look, we're following rules, but you're supposed to offer us protection. You're supposed to offer us basic rights, and you're not doing that. And so then Thomas Jefferson, he's going to use some of the elements from John Locke that's going to allow this idea of being able to say, we deserve independence. We have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Remember, John Locke said you have the right to life, liberty, and property. So we start to see the fight for independence begin. Well, we won't talk about the war in this class, except to say that even though the British military were the most powerful military in the world, the colonists had several advantages. It's important to know these. What were the advantages that allowed the colonists to win? Well, they were fighting for freedom. And whenever you're fighting for your life, whenever you're fighting for your rights, you're going to be able to have this superpower strength that's going to make you pretty much invincible. And that was something that they had going for them. Also, don't forget about the French. The French are more than happy to help the Americans. They'll do anything to strike at the English. And so they will come in, and actually the Americans need to give a lot of credit to the French, especially to the Marquis de Lafayette, in winning the war. If it wouldn't have been for French resources and French monies, there's a good chance that Americans do not win. And you can see that at the Battle of Yorktown with the French military assistance. And finally, it becomes such an expensive war for the British. Remember, they're already in debt through the French and Indian War. They are fighting amongst themselves about what to do with the colonists. And so many people in London basically tell Parliament and the king, look, this is a war. It's not worth fighting. It's not for us to be a part of. We're not into it. And so you just start seeing all of these things to happen. And even though there will be some failures and there will be some defeats, the Americans eventually, in the Battle of Yorktown in 1781, will defeat the English. And what is significant, not just does this give America's independence in a revolution, but the French are going to see this, and it's going to lead to revolution with them. Haitians are going to see this, and they're going to strike up some revolution. And other countries and other people groups are going to see these opportunities. And so basically what happens after the war is America now says, we won, now what? They have to establish a government. And so they will create the Articles of Confederation, which will ultimately be a failure, and then that will lead to the Constitution. And as we see, the Constitution comes in, which is an opportunity for an American government to be established. And as you move forward in other classes, you'll study more about these articles and about the Constitution that comes in. But just understand this chart right here. Notice how there are so many similarities between the Enlightenment ideas, Those individuals we've already talked about with Locke and Montesquieu, Rousseau, Voltaire, Beccaria. And notice how you find those elements in existence for us today. So truly, the Enlightenment plays a huge role in the American Revolution.